Boys. Boys, we made it. We finally made it. We cracked the code. We found the secret formula. We finally made it. We found how to turn this into this. Alright, let's stop with stupidity and let's get to actual work. So as you can see, I've used something called wavetable. The reason I use this is to show you that you can make a growl bass with any sound, pretty much any sound. So I've used this sound. Let's mute the sub layer, which, you know, started being a saw wave, but I've morphed it into more of a mix between saw wave and triangle wave. But obviously you can do this with Serum, you can do this with Massive, you can do this with you know, FL Studio 3X oscillator. It's anything. You can do this with anything. And the basic method behind it is multiple filters and a ton of distortion, compression, and other effects. And we're gonna see this particular chain, the effects that it has. All right, if you like the sound, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I'm giving away so many free sounds and so much stuff that it's crazy. Like, producers are calling me and saying like, dude, stop giving away our secrets. I'm like, no, fuck you. But yeah, first thing we do is we put an audio effect rack. If you're on FL Studio or other DAW, there are also options for you, like a fruity patcher. But in Ableton, we're going to use an audio effect rack. And the first effect is going to be an auto filter with a bandpass, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to send the filter frequency to the macro one. That makes it sound like this. Not too amazing. So what we do is, this is how you do it. You click on map to macro one, and then you could do something like right click, edit macro map, and this little window would pop up. What this means is this is the minimum point and the maximum point that the macro acts on, right? So this macro is probably frequency, the second frequency thing, and it goes from 137 hertz to 1800, okay? And then I modulate with an automation. I do that shape, right? So that's how it sounds. Okay. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna saturate it a lot. We're gonna choose a digital clip and we're gonna turn it up to 29 dBs. That makes it more gritty and, you know, growly. And something very cool that you can do in Ableton is use phasers. The phasers in Ableton are, you can use them in pretty unintended ways, and this is one of them. You can turn the amount all the way down. I mean, by default it's down, and you move this point until it sounds good. So in this case, this point is where I found that it was sounding pretty cool. And then what I did here is I added a vocoder. This vocoder has carrier enhanced and it's modulator mode. Obviously, because it has to modulate itself. Now it has 100% sensibility, minus 59% dB. The voice, there's like a weird noise that comes out of this, and it's set up to fast. Depth is 111%, and this is minus 7.8. And the bands are 8. So now it's gonna sound more vocal. But of course, it has lost a lot of body and fatness and power, you know. So, you know, the good old strategy here is to place 3 OTTs. So we just place 3 OTTs. And in the last one, we're going to output it at plus 11.2 dB. That is going to make it sound like this. Okay, now we are starting to hear the growl that we hear in every dubstep song ever, okay? Because, you know, that type of sound comes from OTT over compression. I'm going to saturate it again, you know, unlock clip, plus 5.6 drive. We're going to EQ it again, because as you distort it and compress it over and over again, it's going to be losing some vocal tonality. So what you do is you keep adding more vocalization, and in this case it's a high peak filter. You know, I just used EQ8 to make it, and it is, you know, the same type of rule applies where I have 2 things sent to the macro 2. Now it's a different macro. And yeah, and you can edit the macro map. And again, you can play with these numbers to make it sound different. And in this case, this is the macro 2. So it's going from up, down, and then up. So you can hear we have lost our lower end because it's a high pass. So we keep adding OTT here. And you know, in this case, it's at plus 9.6 dB. And the phaser, again, we're gonna move this point until we think it sounds cool and gnarly. It doesn't have too much science behind it. This is at 8 poles, earth, color 50%, and dry wet is 35% in this particular case. So this is going to be our last filter. It's going to be again a bandpass, and we're going to again macro it to this, and we're going to modify the numbers. And again, we have 3 filters doing slightly different modulations each, and it's going to give it a very specific sound that is going to be really hard to recreate. So this type of bass is cool in the sense that other people are not going to be able to make the exact same sound, because you would have to understand a lot of you know, a lot of the process that someone has gone through, and it's hard to understand all the rack just by hearing the sound in the end. So that's the last filter, and as you can see, again, we lost a lot of the fatness of the sound. So then I saturate it with a, you know, analog clip at 5.1 dB drive, and then 1 OTT and 1 last OTT with plus 11 dB on the output. That that artifact that you've been hearing throughout the tutorial is, there's so much compression that it's trying to put sound in the frequencies that don't have any sound. So some weird artifacts happen, and they're pretty loud. So you would have to, here with an utility, I automate it so when the MIDI stops playing, the sound goes away completely. And then we have a filter, because as you can see, we've made a wavetable with a sine wave, which is a sub. And of course, they both have the same pitch modulation, which is, I've made it through the MIDI. It's just going up and down. The way you do this in Ableton, by the way, if you don't know, is you have to click in this area right here so that this graph comes up. And then here you can choose pitch bend. So that's one way you can pitch bend. If you're doing it with Serum, you can pitch bend inside of Serum. There are multiple, you can even do like glide. There are multiple ways you can do this, but this is just one of them. And yeah, this is the final sound. So yeah, guys, if you like the sound, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because again, I'm giving so many free sounds, presets, racks, everything. And yeah, guys, see you next time.